Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Jawas here. Just thought I'd do a bit of a video to showcase our metal launcher and our completely custom made ripcord. So I'll try and demonstrate. I mean, it's not... what I've done is I've made the handle a little bit longer. As you can see, a little bit bigger for, I guess, more adult hands. Whereas if I show you a comparison between these two, if I stack it right up, you can see it's probably on the order of 10-15% bigger. And if I line it up, you can sort of see the length difference as well. So it's not huge, because I didn't want people, when they used it with their original plastic gen toys, to really kill it. It's about a good 2.5 inches longer of ripcord. Now, the other benefit is the originals were made of injection molded ABS. This is made of injection molded nylon or PA66. And just for those who in the community that may be worried about people trying to pass it off as an original, I've actually got stamped on the back, Jawas Junkyard, the month that we commissioned it to be made, and the material being PA66, so there should be no confusion. Now, why did I make a custom plastic ripcord? Well, one, obviously now that we've got our own mold, we can do custom colors. I'm starting off with just doing a big batch of 200 in black. The main reason though is I wanted to include a launcher with our a ripcord with our custom metal launchers. So as you can see, these things are really cool. They're the same size as the original. The only difference is they're all metal. So they still have that same lock the other way. So to do this, we actually made completely custom springs. We had to make, you know, that sort of ratchet arm that goes inside here, if you've ever seen it, when you pull apart. And we've used it, you know, on our custom animes as well. Now the negative is those springs aren't perfect, and you know, it is not, I guess, now that our little lever is metal, it's a bit heavier, so it's a bit harder to move out of the way. So what I did is I designed this with a little bit of a taper at the end. So there's actually like a little leg. It's hard to show you, but if you compare it to the OG, you can see the OG is just a flat tip here, whereas this actually has a bit of a curve. And the idea is it actually tries to push that lever as it goes in. The idea is it pushes that lever and gets a bit of extra benefit. Now it goes in just maybe a little bit harder than your original plastic launcher, but it feels very, very smooth. Now each of these are going to come from me assembled with a little bit of super lube in a couple spots, just to try and keep the friction low. So if you notice, after a little bit of wear, a bit of playing yourself, you can undo the screws here and you can just add a bit of lube yourself. Some super lube's perfect. You know, they are metal gears in here. Now, another thing that I did notice in my practice testing is if we super tighten this, or we tighten it a lot, it's actually going to make it really hard to move. So if you get it, and maybe even after a bit of playing, you realize that it's really jamming up and you sort of can't move this in there. Like obviously you can see here, it's very smooth moving. Really nice action. But if it starts to jam up, what you can do is just try to loosen this just a little bit. Take an Allen key, just a quarter of a rotation, or you know, just a smidge. You don't want it too loose. And on the alternative, if you find that you're spinning it and instead of launching, it actually doesn't come off and it just, you know, the bay's weight just free spins at the end. And that's going to be more, I guess, possible to happen when you're launching the metal bays, just because they're so much heavier. Then that means this has probably come a little bit loose. So what you can do is screw it up and look, tighten it up a little bit. If you've actually found that it's in a spot where you really, really like how that feels, you can actually just go ahead and get some Loctite and lock that screw in. and then not have to worry about it coming apart or doing anything again. But obviously the negative there is if anything ever happens to that sort of ratchet inside, you can't really get in there to repair it. So just a bit of a trade-off, you know, just something to consider. But the good thing about these is because the parts are metal, pretty much everything's repairable. It's easy to open. You can clean it up, lube it up. Whereas the plastic ones, they just eventually stop working and broke, right? So you know, you do get some benefits out of this being metal. Yeah, I just thought I'd walk you through a little bit of my experience, because I have been testing them for actually quite a while. I've had these metal ones actually completely in stock in all the colors. I have the full entire stock for quite a while, just waiting on these ripcords. So yeah, that just wanted to give you a little bit of information on it. As you can see, it grips. The bay is really nice. But for those who don't actually know how a plastic gen launcher works, I'll go through it a little bit for you so you understand what's happening. You see there's little nubs in there, and these actual legs have a specific angle to them. What actually happens inside the bay is when you twist it in the opposite direction, so I guess here you got clockwise, it actually goes and locks up against this gear. Can't move anymore. It's hitting the ripcord there, so it's not spinning, and it's locked in place with those insert features inside the bay. Now when you spin this and you go to launch it, right, when the ripcord stops moving at the end, that little latch that's pushed out of the way by the ripcord inside, the spring action brings it back in, locks up against the gear, and then the full momentum of the Beyblade comes to a complete stop. That actually causes this to twist, which allows those little nubs on the launcher arms to disengage from inside here, and then the bay to drop. So there is a lot of force on this every time. So it's another benefit as to why this is metal. You're probably going to see over time, this is aluminium, it is anodized. You're probably going to see some wear on the edges. There's just nothing we can do about that, right? That's just wear with play, just like anything. You'll see that on your Beyblade X's now, that, you know, when they battle, they wear each other out. It's just, nothing is indestructible. And I guess I'll talk a little bit, while we got you here, about our ginormous anime launchers. So they work fundamentally very similar to the original launchers. I think this one here, I've actually in my testing, I've actually glued it up and sort of jammed this up. So this one's not a great one to play with, but the general function is basically the same. The only difference here is I removed the spring and that lever. I have a magnetic lever up the front here, and basically, you know, the ripcord pushes it down, which, you know, it's against the force of these magnets, and then you rip it, you pull it out, and the magnet goes up and locks the gear from spinning inside. Now again, when you launch these metal bays, there's so much force. Now the negative here is this is 3D printed, so it is possible to break prongs or the internal gears. So all the critical parts that take force, I include a nylon carbon fiber print that's in black, so it won't match the color of your core. So you can see here you'll have blue with the black. I do include the matching base color as well, prongs. So if you're just going to purely use it to launch plastic gen bays, the original plastics, that's fine, especially with the lift spin launcher. That's completely fine, and it'll be pretty much okay as just the standard PLA plastic. But yeah, for the metal bays, we really need to upgrade it to that nylon carbon fiber. With my testing, that's what I've observed. But yeah, that's about it. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Jawas Junkyard, checking out.